This podcast episode is made possible by wowdigital.com, your trusted partner for nonprofit and charity website and design.
Are you feeling stuck with your nonprofit social media strategy? Sarah Suarez is back on the podcast to share how small shifts in your approach can spark huge engagement, grow your online community, and actually turn followers into donors. So stick around. This episode might just change how you show up online. Welcome to the Nonprofit Digital Success Podcast. I'm your host, David, and in this episode, Sarah Suarez and I are going to be talking all things social media strategy, digital communities, and overcoming platform fatigue. Sarah has nearly a decade of experience working with both small and large nonprofits, including Houston Humane Society and Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. She's the founder of The Social Puzzle, a boutique social media agency dedicated to helping nonprofits and charities build and engage digital audiences, allowing them to focus on increasing their impact. Sarah, welcome back to the show. This is your second episode, which is super awesome. So glad you're able to be here. Looking forward to the real talk, the real tactics to help the people listening organize their social media game. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Fantastic. Let's just jump right in, right? A lot of nonprofits feel social media isn't, quote unquote, working for them. What signs should they look for to know if it's time to take a step back, rethink strategy, create a strategy? Maybe they never had one because maybe they were just told, you got to be on social, right? And so there's a lot with that. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I get that question a lot when I have consulting calls. I'll have a nonprofit team member say to me, we spend all this time on social media, but it's really not working for us. We don't see that it's a success. And so I'll ask them at that point to take a step back and, let me know, how do you define success? What would success look like for your organization? And a lot of times they don't know yet. Maybe they haven't set a clear definition of success. And in that case, they're never going to know if they've been successful because they don't know what it looks like. So I would say, look at your goals, your organizational goals, and translate those into social media goals, and then build a strategy around that. And then anytime you sit down to create content, you should be looking at that strategy. And each piece of content should reflect one of your goals. It should aim to achieve one of your goals. So if you haven't built a strategy, like you said, you have to have a strategy, or else what are you doing? You don't know. And I would say, do an audit of your content. Are you speaking to the right audience? Do you know your audience? That's crucial. Otherwise, you're speaking to everyone and no one at the same time. I would say focus on engagement. I'm always telling people that engagement is at least as important as posting. If you have to make a decision between posting more and engaging more, I would say, sacrifice maybe one post a week to do engagement in that time. And then think of what consistency can look like with your capacity. So it's important to be consistent. It's important to show up, but it's also important not to burn out and disappear. I would recommend posting twice a week and seeing how that goes before I would ever recommend posting every day and then burning out and disappearing for a few months. And then finally, I would say, don't be afraid of a failed post. It's so important to experiment, and not every post is going to be successful, but if you don't try new things, you'll never know if you're missing some type of content or a different type of post that would really hit the mark with your audience.
That's awesome. There's so much fantastic. We could probably end the episode right here. There was so much really great content, Sarah, and what you put out there. I think it's important for people to also think about who is your audience. And that's one of the things that you asked. Identifying, creating the personas, the avatars, understanding the psychographics of these people. Episode 16, I talk about psychographics, everybody. But understanding where they're spending their time. Years ago, I'm talking 15 years ago, right? You needed to be on every platform everywhere because you never knew, blah, 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 right? And you needed to measure your followers against similar like organizations, and that's easy to get numbers and you can throw that into a spreadsheet. But identifying the goal, the reason, the rationale behind putting the effort into social and understanding who you want to target will help you identify the one, maybe two social channels that you should be using, and then targeting your customer, your client, your donor, your volunteer, your participant, your whoever it is that you're trying to go after. It'll become really clear where you should post and what you should post about.
Yes. 100%. Sometimes it's as simple as, is your organization volunteer run? And then what do your volunteers look like? Or is your organization, I had a client that was actually really difficult to nail down their avatar because they help so many different aspects of their community. They offered so many services. So, there were times when we had to be a little more vague when we were speaking to people. But in general, I think most organizations should be able to nail down what their donor audience looks like, what their volunteer audience looks like. And then outside of that, maybe if they're trying to reach out to some of the potential program participants, what that audience looks like. And then each content, maybe you have posts that speak to different audiences, but it's important to know who they are speaking to.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you're just putting stuff out into the ether and you're not getting any results. I love the idea of posting once or twice a week. That's awesome. I think everybody should think about doing some A/B testing around that. So which days do you get more engagement than others, or more likes, more views? You have access to all that analytical information and the insight there. And then once you figure out, okay, Wednesday and Friday are the best days, right? Start playing with the time of day.
Yes, yeah.
Right? And then go, oh, you know what? If we post at 10 in the morning, we get more engagement. Or if we post at 6 in the evening or 3 in the morning, I don't know, right? Depends on who your audience is and where they're located on the planet. There's time zones. So, I think it's important to do that. But also one of the things that we've realized is you have different types of content that you push out, right? Some of it is educational, some of it is informative, some of it is asking for something like a donation or to sign up for a program or service or something like that. Keep your eye on those, I'm going to call them buckets of content, because different days, different times might work better based on the type of content you're posting. Do you have any strategies for anybody that's trying to think about how they could organize their posts in those kind of ways?
How they can know which post to schedule when, or just how they can kind of create content per bucket?
Either, or both.
Oh, okay.
Both. Why not?
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's really important to, determine what your buckets are. My buckets for my clients are usually pretty similar. Like most of my nonprofits are trying to spread awareness and offer educational content about their work and their cause. And then they're also trying to, I call it inspire action. So that can mean you're trying to drive in donations, or you're trying to drive people to your YouTube channel to learn about your mission, or even sign up for newsletters. All of that is like you're driving your audience to take action. So I consider that a bucket. And then you can obviously measure if that content was successful by how well they responded to your call to action. And then I have clients that are trying to use their content to increase awareness. So then in that case, sometimes that's when I like to do a collaboration post, because if there's a similar organization that maybe has an audience that's already receptive to your content, that'd be great to get in front of them. So I think there's different ways to put things in different buckets, and then look at each bucket and determine what is success for that bucket, even within that bucket, that post. So when you create a post, you should already know what you're looking to achieve from that post.
I love it. So we've got these posts going up. We've nailed down the couple of days a week, which channels they should go on. We're posting it. We're getting some kind of engagement. Maybe it's a like, a comment, a share, a repost, whatever that happens to be. I find that nonprofits sometimes struggle to turn likes into actual lasting support, right? So do you have any thoughts around how folks listening to this could help nurture followers in terms of becoming donors or volunteers or advocates, or taking what I'm going to call a more kind of active role?
Yes, yeah. So my background is in donor stewardship and engagement. So my favorite thing about social media is really just the opportunity to sort of not only bring people into your work, but also keep them updated on all the things that are happening with your organization, keep them interested and wanting more and passionate about what you're doing. So I would suggest, obviously, building this into your strategy, but you need to share things like your mission, the difference your organization makes in the community. I would share quantifiable data, and you can share it in different ways, but maybe some of the information from your annual report, but most importantly, stories. I think if you share a video story or a photo with a story, and you help them to see the human aspect of the difference you're making, that can help them to really build a connection. And then you just keep updating them, you engage them, you offer them opportunities to get involved in multiple different ways, because everybody can get involved in a different way. Not everybody can make a donation or has the time to volunteer, but everyone can become what I like to call an advocate, which means they engage with your content, they share your content, they're just out there like your hype man. So I think that when you, yeah. I think if you're trying to build someone into a long-term supporter, it's kind of like that everyday grind of just keep them updated, make them feel valued, help them to understand your mission and become as passionate about it as you are.
You mentioned video. And for everybody listening, when I started doing social stuff for the agency, I was really nervous. I didn't like, I would hum and haw over everything, every tiny little thing in the video, and it took me a long time to kind of get over that, right? And like I would record something, I wouldn't look at it anymore. Like the one time edit, post done, and like I just kind of, right? There's something to be said for taking quick action and immediate action and just getting it done. And one of the things that I did that I tell all of our clients about, I'm going to tell all of you as well, is do that first video like 5 times. Delete them all, don't use it, don't ever use it, and then use the 6th one. And the next time you make a video, do 2 or 3. Wipe them, use the 4th one. You will get more comfortable with it, but I think a lot of nonprofits, people wear 30, 40 different hats. All right, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it's 2 or 3, right? But there's small budgets. Everybody should have access, or at least one person in their team, to a phone, right? And they have pretty good cameras, whatever they are. Nobody's expecting Hollywood level quality from a nonprofit for a social media post, right? So in terms of video content, what have you seen that works really well for nonprofits?
Well, first I'm going to tell you that I'm stealing that tip you just gave them, because if I have a 30-second reel, I spent 30 minutes making it. So I needed that tip as well. Kind of to what you were saying, I think that less polished content. Use your phone, encourage your volunteers or your team members if they see something really cool, or even just something regular that maybe your social media followers would love because it would make them feel like they see behind the scenes. Capture it, and then I think you create a shared drive. You invite them to upload the content. If there's people in it who need to sign a waiver, upload the PDF of the waiver as well. And then your person who handles your social media has like this incredible bank of videos that would make any social media person's day, week, year to like just have this bank of video content. But I really think it's sharing videos of the people behind the scenes, maybe your program participants if they're willing. Honestly, sort of mundane stuff. For your stories, if you're in an all-team meeting, take your phone and just like scan around the room, have everybody wave, and that in your stories lets people feel connected, and it's a behind-the-scenes look, you know? For events, obviously there's before and after and all this really cool stuff, but I don't think it has to be very polished, and I don't think it has to be, you know, something that is so groundbreaking that they feel like they never seen it before. I just think it's consistent video content, and it makes them feel a connection to your mission, which is really the foundation for all success on social media for nonprofits.
What's the saying? A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? I say a video is worth 1,000,000 words, right? A 10-second clip can get so much more insight and value for the person that's watching it into the audience. And it could be like weird random things. There's this TikTok channel that I follow of a car dealership. I don't remember where they are. There's a guy walking with a microphone. He's got his phone like this and a microphone, right? So all you see is like his hand and a mic. And he starts singing a song and then walks up to like every employee to see if they know the song, right? Has nothing to do with what they do, but it's about creating some rapport and some interest and showing some of that back end. Here's what happens. Here's how we have a little bit of fun. Not everything is always serious, right? And I think that that will shed a lot of light for anybody that's interested in either you or your organization.
Yeah, authenticity goes a long way, and simple videos from your phone, they feel authentic to your audience.
Absolutely. Nonprofits, so they figured out what day of the week. They figured out time of day. They figured out, here's the audience, here's what we're gonna talk about, here's the buckets of content. We've got this content calendar, anybody watching this on the wall behind me over here. They figured out who and what and where, and they go and they shoot the video, but realistically, there's a time component to all of this, right? How can people repurpose content across platforms in a way that might save them time? Do they need to create new content for every platform?
No. Well, I think repurposing content is not just a huge time saver. I think it's really important if you're trying to reach your entire audience. As you know, different people like to consume content in different ways on different channels. When you think about repurposing content, I think we think about that in two ways. Number one being, if I write this e-newsletter, can I then create a blog post off of that content for my website and then maybe 4 social media posts? And that way, yes, that's great for me. I have all this content from one original piece, but also your entire audience has the opportunity where, a lot of your social media followers are probably not newsletter subscribers. So it's important to share it across multiple channels so that everyone has the ability to see it. And then number 2, in terms of social media content, I think we have to remember that on average, like 10% of your followers will see any post you share. So if you're only sharing content one time and then it's done, a lot of your followers have never seen your content. So I would, there's certain pieces of content I would continue to redo and reshare over and over: your mission, your impact, how to get involved. But then you can also look back on your analytics maybe 6 months ago or even further back and what has done really well. If you had a post that was a carousel that did really well and resonated with your audience, maybe take the exact same idea and tweak it into a reel. And most of the hard work is already done for you, or vice versa. But I do think repurposing content gets a bad rap because I think it's really important, not only for the efficiency of your team, but so that your entire audience has the opportunity to see what you're putting out there.
I love that idea, right? Social media is very fickle. Post something, it ends up in the feed, and seconds later, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody is following like 2 organizations or like 3 friends and that's it, they'll see it. Otherwise, you have to really be in the account on social around the time that it's posted to really see it. And I know Facebook is doing some weird things in their feed where it'll show more popular content instead of more recent content. So if you can work on building more engagement, if you're posting to Facebook, you'll end up being seen by more people just organically because of that. And I think most of the social channels work that way. They want to promote content that people are interested in. So when somebody's posting a comment to yours, reply back, even if it's a thank you so much or a heart emoji or a thumbs, like anything, because that's more engagement on the post, and that should lead into the algorithm to get more views on your content.
Exactly, yeah.
Earlier you mentioned collabs. I think it's awesome for nonprofits to collab with other nonprofits, whether they're in the same sector or not, because more voices is better for everybody always. But there's also collaborations with A-lister, B-lister, C-lister, or people like me on the Z list, right? Nobody knows who I am, right? Where you can like interact with other people to help kind of move mountains in that kind of way. Do you have any thoughts on how to approach collaborations?
Yeah, well, it's all relationship building. There's more than one way to build relationships, but for example, I had a client they were a regional organization, so they had sites in like 8 counties. And when they came to me, they had incredible offline partners and relationships with their mayor and city council members and other organizations. And it just worked out so well that a lot of those people and organizations had a really great social media presence. So once I realized that they had a connection, I would reach out and support their content and they would support our content. And it became this like really symbiotic relationship. It was so effective. And there were times when the mayor would tag them in a collaboration post and it would be a surprise to them. They were just at the same event, but it's so helpful for your organization, especially if you pick an organization that is similar to yours or local to yours, like the same community, because then, like I've said in the past, you get this like very targeted reach. All reach is good, but targeted reach is the best. So that's really neat. But I have had clients that are smaller that have offline partnerships that don't necessarily translate online because maybe the other nonprofit has no social media presence or something like that. And in that case, you really have to build this into your engagement strategy. So you have to be thinking when you go online to engage that you're seeking out potential collaboration partners, strategic partners. And what you want to do is support their content over time, build a relationship with them in the DMs, let them know that, with your actions that you're interested in a long-term relationship with them. And if things go well, it can turn into a collaboration post, or it can turn into, you each just sharing great things about the other one or help amplifying each other's posts through your stories. There is a lot of power in working with other organizations or thought leaders in your space or community leaders, and it can really increase awareness about your work.
Absolutely. It's important to let people know what you do. Not everything is always about monetary exchange. Not everybody should always have a post that asks for donations, right? We need to tell the story. We need to build emotion. We need to connect with people intellectually and emotionally to get them to care about the cause to the point where they want to engage in some way. The couch surfers, right? The thumb controllers on their phones. So that's solid advice there. When we look at the last several months of what's happened in the US and globally because of the political climate, shall we say, there are risks, there are opportunities. What do you think nonprofits should consider when they're adjusting their social media strategy, or should they even adjust their social media strategy?
Well, I don't necessarily think it has to be a complete shift in strategy, but I do think we need to start rethinking maybe how we look at social media. I'm always looked at it from the perspective of building this wonderful, engaged and supportive community for the organization. But maybe it's time that we also need to look at it as an extension of our offline work. And especially for the organizations that serve marginalized communities, especially for the organizations serving immigrant communities, they might be getting an increase in comments and DMs that are asking for support or resources. So for those organizations, I would say, it's time to look at social media as another avenue to help our communities. And so maybe if you haven't already, you create a cheat sheet with resources so that when you get these questions, you can answer them. You can even use your frequently asked questions tool in Instagram or your saved reply. So that way you can help more people more efficiently and more quickly. And I would just say that if you get a lot of the same question, maybe it's time to share a post with that information. Obviously your audience needs it. So kind of a shift from building this incredible audience that is a community of support for your organization to also needing to support that community and taking care of them. Another thing that happened recently that I thought was really neat. So I have a client that is in adult literacy, and adult education in the US stands to lose all of their federal funding with the current budget. And I was so impressed. They have one of the leaders in that space, the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, shared information about the legislation and what it meant. And they included some incredible CTAs, share this so that your audience can contact their reps. Here's how to contact your reps and what to say. And they really activated their audience, and their followers took it and ran. And now I see that content everywhere. I see it shared. I see new content created from what I know to be their original content. So it might be time to think about our communities different in terms of how can we support them, but then if necessary, if we'd spend all this time investing in community and building this wonderful community, maybe lean on them when you need this kind of support like adult education does right now.
It's important to have activism. I think part of everybody's cause. I believe that's really one of the founding reasons that a lot of people start a nonprofit is because they see a problem, they want to fix the problem, and they're trying to activate. And if you've got some community, even if it's 10 people following you, it's not always about the numbers, it's about the voices, because who they're connected to will lead to bigger things. So activate your audience when you need to. Not everything is alarmist. So
Right.
Pick and choose as well, but use them in that kind of way. And that sounds bad, use them, right? But they're loyal to you. They care about your cause. They want to do something to help. So activate, right? And I think that's something that a lot of organizations need to be thinking about as budgets are cut, at least for now.
Yeah. And usually for your followers, because they want an opportunity, to support you. You need to think about it as you're giving them this opportunity to support a cause they probably love, and they'd be happy to do this.
Out of all the organizations that you've worked with, and the ones that you've met with that haven't hired you, and the ones that you've gone and done audits for, and what you're seeing online, what's the one thing that you would tell everybody listening to this that they need to absolutely stop doing?
So it's sort of an all-encompassing stop being spammy, especially on Facebook. It started a couple of years ago and I thought it would stop, and it hasn't, with the tagging everyone or followers. And it's a great way to lose followers, because if they're constant, every post is urgent for them to see, no post is important for them. Then it kind of junks up their notifications. And I have unfollowed organizations on behalf of clients because, as the person running their social media, I can't get to the notifications I need to see. So I would stop doing that. And then if you do tag, like even in Instagram, no one should ever be surprised by a tag. If it's something they weren't expecting, they should look at it and think, oh, I'm so glad I saw this, and it has to do with me or my organization. I would never tag a bunch of people just to get eyeballs on your post, which I understand it comes from a good place. You love your mission, you want everyone to know what you're doing, but it can be off-putting. So I would just kind of tag with restraint.
Love that. Sarah, amazing insights to strategy, maximizing community, navigating social platforms. I hope that everybody listening has been able to get at least one or two really solid gold nuggets. I know there's probably 7 or 8. I've been making some notes as we've been talking that I'm going to take back for me and my team and for our clients as well. So thank you so much. Awesome pointers from you today. I'm going to put you on the spot. So if you were to issue anybody listening to this or watching this, we're on YouTube, by the way, everybody, and Spotify, I think, has video now also. So everybody listening and watching, if you were to give them a challenge, something you want them to do in the next 24 hours of listening to this episode, what should they do?
Get on video, make a video. I mean, I think that content generally outperforms, and like we discussed, it helps your audience build a connection to you. So create a video. That's something you can do right now.
Okay, everybody make a video, tag Nonprofit Digital Success Podcast on it. We're here to help you, give you more insight. Sarah, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what do they need to do?
They can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. They can also go to my website, and I believe you are going to put in the show notes an engagement cheat sheet I have for them, so that if they're trying to figure out the best way to go about engagement for their organization, hopefully that will give them the tips they're looking for.
Fantastic. We've got your free engagement cheat sheet. We're going to have it on the show notes. We'll have a link for the social puzzle, but that's easy enough. You go on and search for social puzzle on Instagram. Sarah Suarez on LinkedIn. Sarah, thank you so much for joining in. It's been great having you here on the Nonprofit Digital Success Podcast again. And to everybody listening, if you want any of the links, resources that Sarah provided, head over to our show notes page. Like I mentioned moments ago, go to nonprofitdigitalsuccess.com, click on this episode for all of the awesome details. And until next time, keep on being successful.